Going to bed. So hi, I look like hell, and I probably feel like it too, because all weekend I was away doing magical things at an anime convention. So yay for that! Hooray! I played a wonderful game called Werewolf, which if you don't know what it is, but you do know of a game called Mafia, it's exactly the same thing. And the answer is fun. But I'm going to leave that to another day to discuss exactly, because if I didn't, I would be remiss, especially considering that I've got about an hour. And there was this little event that I feel like some of you guys may have heard of over the past couple days. And we all got hype about it. I don't know, it's something about an expo, one with electronics and entertainment of things. Oh, right! You guys have heard of E3. Good. Okay, we'll start with that then, because that would probably be, like, an ideal thing to talk about, given the fact that, you know, it's only the second best time of the year, with the first best time of the year being my birthday. But you guys should know that by now. Okay, so, it being the most wonderful time of the year, what if... I'm actually going to do this tonight. What if we talk about some of the things that are magical that happened tonight? And I think I'm going to go through it in order as best as I can, because I really like chronological order. And watch me completely screw it up, because why not? And for those of you listening on YouTube or other places, I wish you guys were here, because I am probably going to take some questions and commentary from the audience as well. Probably more towards the middle and end sections of tonight's show. Because, you know me, and audience interaction, God help me, I love talking to the people. But, until that point, let's talk about exactly what happened today. Everything got kicked off with Microsoft this year, starting at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is a perfect time for me to have to stay up to, given I stayed up for like 72 hours over the weekend. Because who doesn't like having to deal with that? So, I really liked how Microsoft started. They had a really nice intro video, kind of a recap of everything that had happened over the past year, you know. I think they might have snuck in a couple things that maybe we didn't notice of things to come. And that's fantastic to me. But the thing that really struck me the most is Microsoft learned from last year. And this made me so happy. Oh my god. So, the first thing Microsoft did off the onset is they walked out. They said, "Hi, we have a vision that we share with our brothers and comrades at arms over at Sony and Nintendo, and, you know, our third-party developers." And then they said this entire presser will be dedicated to one thing. Games. And the entire internet went, "Oh, finally, we're gonna get some games." And you know what? To Microsoft's credit, They lived up to it. They lived up to it. There was only games! No Kinect BS! No trying to force some new half-baked idea or half-cocked strategy. They only went with games. And you know what? That's amazing. But it didn't come with a couple drawbacks. But we'll get there. But I do appreciate the balls of Nintendo to come out and immediately just declare, this is a press conference only for games. And again, it made me a little sad that that got such a big reaction. Like, we were all so exhausted from last year, where last year wasn't about games. And believe me, TVs, sports, TVs, sports, game, TV. That's a very nice departure. One of the things that really stood out for me from the onset was a game I'd actually predicted about, a magical little thing called Sunset Drive. And they really kind of threw you for a curve. When Sunset Drive came out, you didn't realize what it was at first. Because what they did was they had a generic-looking shooter dude and some generic-looking soldiers that he was fighting against. And he's hiding behind cover. And he's doing his thing, and he looks like he's really nervous to take any couple shots, and he's sitting there. And then this punk-ass dude, literally punk-ass dude, and his jean vest and this, like, ridiculous hair, and he's completely colorful. Like, he completely stands out from the situation that this guy was in. Just walks on up to him and he says, "Dude, what are you doing?" And then he jumps over a bunch of crates, slides down a zip line, and starts taking shots at what I assume to be, what, terrorists? Or whatever El Generico villain bad guy they had for him. It looked amazing, and I feel like the internet was a little jaded by it. But I really couldn't get jaded because of just how awesome it was for the presentation for this game. And I'm pretty sure I'll play it, just because I'm really excited for something cartoony but parkoursy. And it was actually pointed out to me, I think by a friend of mine. He says, "Doesn't the guy from Sunset Overdrive look a lot like the scout from Team Fortress 2? And that also made me really happy too, because I really, really, really like Team Fortress. So anything where we draw parallels to that is going to be a lot of fun to me. As I try and kill Pyro Pete here, who himself looks cartoony as crap. I'm really glad that a game like Sunset Overdrive is going to be coming out, and it made me really happy that they could produce such a trailer where we didn't have to just stare at Brown and Bloom, generic Shutan 2.0 again. Because the original, like the first trailer they came out with was Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, and I just can't get hyped for Call of Duty enough to really make severe mention of it, besides as a parallel comparison to what I actually got hyped for, which was this. So, I believe a couple other trailers came out, you know, I think we kind of did our indie showcase. And as part of the indie showcase, they did Project Spark. And Project Spark looked pretty cool. It looked like this really nice world-building idea that they have for you to come up with and kind of make your own games. At least that's kind of the idea that was drawn in terms of what Project Spark felt like. Although I couldn't get a 100% grasp on how it's going to go down because, you know, they showed these two people, like a guy and a girl, who were very clearly, like, in this specific world, and the world kind of meshed a little bit. And then they showed a game like Limbo in terms of art style, and then they showed some 8-bit style looking games and 16-bit style looking games. And I wasn't sure where they were going with Project Spark. Is it going to be that you can design any kinds of those games, or was that just a side benefit that they didn't really talk about? I don't know. But at the end of Project Spark, they announced something really cool. Conker's back! And you're gonna laugh. Because I didn't play Conker's Bad Fur Day. My two interactions with Conker, as of this podcast kind of style, my two interactions with Conker are Conker in... Oh, this is not good. Conker in not Banjo-Kazooie, in... What's it called? Oh, Diddy Kong Racing! Which doesn't really count. And then Conker in a game... I can't believe I couldn't get to that in time. Conker in a game that very few knew of. Conker was actually in a game that was rated E for everybody for the Game Boy Color. And the last boss of that game, by the way, was ridiculously hard. It was also, like, the last boss of that game was an evil acorn. He had the snidely whiplash mustache and everything. And he looked ridiculous. But it's good to see Conker back. And it will kind of motivate me on stream to play Conker. I don't think I have the rights to talk about anything when you wipe to Pyro Beat, but... I got a little overconfident and stepped away. So that's my excuse here. Plus, you know, talking about E3 gets me kind of hyped. Focus on that instead. Microsoft really focused on games being delivered. And I was kind of shocked, because while there were a lot of games being delivered, nothing really stood out in particular. Everything felt good, but there was no blockbuster wow factor for what Microsoft had to offer. And I was a little sad, because I really wanted there to be something out there that Microsoft had as an exclusive. You know, yes, there is some hype to be gotten for Halo. They basically released Halo Mix and Match. So we're going to get Halo 1 through 4 again on the Xbone, and that's great. But as hype as I can get for Halo 2 multiplayer to be there, and as hype as I can possibly get for a setup that it seems to be for Halo 5, I kind of wanted more. I kind of wanted to see some new IPs. I wanted to see something that provided me with a real legitimate reason to get an Xbox One. And it wasn't there yet. Especially because Sony wound up having such a good press conference after this. But it was unfair for me to judge Microsoft conference based on Sony's conference. And that is why I actually didn't do that when we review what my final grade was for that conference. Now, my final review performance is a B. And it's because there were games promised, and there were games delivered. And I think it's a little unfortunate that that's the state of where we are in games. But again, it's worth mentioning that this is kind of an off year, so hardware wasn't going to be forthcoming. But at the same time, it's great on Microsoft that they promised and delivered, and didn't try to shovel anything that we weren't ever going to be interested in anyway down our throats. They promised games, they delivered games. Oppa! The games. We got Conquer, we got Sunset Drive, games delivered, games were had. But there was nothing that really stood out. And so, to me, at least, Microsoft wound up getting a B. Originally, it got an A, but then I realized it was unfair to compare it to last year's conference, which I believe I rated a D-, because no games. And revised my recommendation to B. Or not to B, that is the question. A couple hours later, at 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it was time for EA to shine. We all know how I feel about EA. It's been touted many, many times on this show that I have a lot of long-standing issues with EA. And it stems from EA buying up old companies once upon a time that were beloved to me, and taking their franchises and running them, in my opinion, into the ground. Now, this includes games like Command & Conquer. The Command & Conquer series had a great game in Command & Conquer Tiberium Wars. That game was made for people who love Command & Conquer. But Generals didn't really stand up to it very well, and Command & Conquer 4 was absolutely atrocious. Red Alert 3 was kind of in a very weird gray area, where it seemed like it could have been great, but they took the concept of Red Alert, and how, like, campy Red Alert was, and put it way, 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 way over the top. You have Maxis on the other side, where Maxis used to produce a whole ton of Maxis sim games. You had SimCity, Sim Life, Sim Earth, SimCopter, Streets of SimCity, The Sims, SimCity 2000, 3000, SimCity 4, and you had a whole bunch of smaller sim games like Sim Isle, Sim Earth, Sim Life, Sim Town, and all of those games were, at least in my opinion, equally as good, if not some, standing out like I really love SimCopter. And Maxis was bought by EA, and essentially what happened is they milked it for 2 games. They said, we're going to take SimCity and make that, and we're going to take The Sims and make that. Because The Sims is the single best-selling PC game of all time. And by The Sims, I mean The Sims 2. But they recognized the potential in The Sims original. But I'm kind of floundering here, so I'm going to switch gears a little bit and actually talk about this year's conference. And in my predictions, I predicted that Battlefront 3 would come to the forefront, and lo and behold, it did, which is good, which is really good. And I was really glad to see it, because Battlefield 3 seemed like it'd be a really cool game to play. Because, God help me, I really enjoyed Battlefront 2. I was made to play it very, very long since the game actually was released. But for what I played, I appreciated it. I felt that it was a little self-indulgent, though, because they started touting how, oh, we went back to the locations, oh, we did this and that to try and get a feel for what Battlefield 3 would be like. And on some level, you can appreciate as a nerd, but you also feel like they were basically just touting, hey, we have the series now, look what we can do with it. Which, if you ever watched Mad TV, it was basically that little kid played by, I can't remember his name right now. It's not Stewart. I think it's Stewart was the name of the character. Played by something McDonald, not Norm McDonald. But he goes, look what I can do! Look what I can do! And I was like, okay, look what you can do. You did it. But there really wasn't much in terms of gameplay footage, although it was hinted that we're going to go to Endor and Hoth, which are 2 very beloved locations. But I'm hyped for the game, but I did not like their presentation on how they talked about it. Andy McDonald, thank you. Bizarre in chat, for those of you who are listening at home, pointed out. Andy McDonald, that's who it was. Andy McDonald, by the way, very funny guy. I predicted Mirror's Edge 2. We got Mirror's Edge 2. And again, I think their presentation was a little self-indulgent. They didn't really show much of the game. They simply said, we're working on this. This is going to be great. But we don't really have anything to show for it right now, so just hang tight. Okay. Because what they showed really kind of felt more like the original than anything else. But, you know, much like other games, hopefully, we get to see more gameplay footage as E3 drags on. I suppose it's a little unfair, but I mean, I'm grading based on what I saw. So hopefully EA runs it back with these games over the course of the convention. And they very well may. Technically, this counts for day 0 of, what, 3 days? So they've got some time to show us what's up. Now, I dared to dream that there would be a new IP, and I don't think we got that. I was really kind of hoping, but I think I was a little disappointed in the fact that we didn't get anything about that. And so we wound up going into The Sims. The Sims looked like The Sims. And when I say looked like The Sims, I mean it looked like every other The Sims. And again, this was a bit of a problem to me, because they started touting these emotion systems, and they were like, this is... Okay, let's go a little bit into what happened there. They went, this is Chuck. Chuck didn't have a good day. Chuck got beat up by an old lady named Gladys, and I was rooting for Gladys the entire time. And Gladys is this old lady who they basically had be like the foil to Chuck, because Chuck got beat up, and then Chuck goes to the gym to get his swole on, because he doesn't want to get beat up by an old lady again, because who would? And then Chuck throws a party because he's so sad, and then Gladys shows up to the party and makes him feel like crap, but for some reason, Chuck starts laughing hysterically, so much so that Chuck laughs himself to death. I felt so bad for Chuck. I wanted him to live. But Chuck just wound up, you know, dying. But it didn't really show off anything unique to a new Sims experience. Like, I don't really care about the interpersonal goings-ons of a Sim game, because essentially they don't really matter in a Sim game. It boils down to, can you make your Sim do X, Y, and Z mathematically, at least to me, so that you can achieve further goals in a Sim game? I shrugged my shoulders and went, that's really what it looks like. And I mean, maybe there are people out there who could appreciate a Sim game on a Sim level, and to those of you I say, napatara bararate gillisu, a gillisilda haulaha burwate. Which is Simish for, I don't even friggin' know. I really don't actually know what that means in Simish. But it's probably something good, right? Oh, man. So, it just didn't feel like anything fresh or new. And then, that became a huge problem for me. And then, we started trailing into sports. And God help me, there were a lot of sports. Sports! TVs, sports. Sports, TVs, sports. In this case, it was just sports. And then they went into UFC Bruce Lee. And they started touting how awesome Bruce Lee was, and for those of you who don't know, Bruce Lee is amazing. And that's great. But they didn't really do anything with it. Like, they had Bruce Lee in a match against, I forget exactly who. But Bruce Lee wasn't overpowered as crap. Now, I want to see Bruce Lee be overpowered. I want to see Bruce Lee go out there and beat the ever-loving crap out of whoever he faces. If there was ever a character in a game for me to be like, okay, I can accept that this character is overpowered, it's Bruce Lee. Like, that's what I want out of a game where Bruce Lee is a character in that game. But we didn't really get that. We kind of got, and this is just me with what I feel about UFC. We basically got what amounted to Dick Punch World Tour, because E3 is essentially dick punching. Or rather, not E3 is essentially dick punching, but UFC is essentially just dick punching. It's two really talented martial arts guys who get in a ring and within 5 minutes are on the ground punching each other squarely in the dick. Which is, you have respect for their skills, and then they don't really showcase them because they're punching each other in the dick. Okay, so it kind of went on into things like Hand Egg. They obviously touted Madden. And one of the funniest things I saw on the internet during the Madden segment was somebody goes, Madden 2015. And for those of you who don't know, that's like a spoof of the meme of M'lady. Which I really want to see somebody put a picture of John Madden in a fedora. Because that would just be really funny to me. Oh, I'm gonna die! I went down really quickly there, especially considering I have my sheriff's badge on. Whatever. Reset it and do it again. I should really open it up to the public. Maybe I will. You know what? I will. I feel bad being so insular today. There we go. But we wound up just getting sports. Sports, golf on a battleship. Sports, Madden again. Sports, let's do some hockey breaks for a minute there, which was amazing for Viking Matt and my friend Victoria, but I don't know how hockey's gonna do. I think they're the last sports game to actually make it into next generation. So, that happened. And you know what? For all these games, we really didn't get a lot of info about them. I never felt like I felt like I could walk away from that game and be 100% educated into what we were watching. There was a disturbing lack of info. It seemed like they kind of trotted all these titles out there just to be able to have them out there. To say, this exists! We have this now! And then they really didn't go anywhere with it. I was a little sad. But, to E3's credit, or to EA's credit as well. I'm gonna keep messing that up for like the rest of forever. I bet for the rest of the night I keep saying EA instead of E3. To EA's credit, it was all about the games. So, unfortunately, due to their business practices, which I've always had a huge problem with, and my long-standing grudge with EA, EA gets an eternal F++ once again this year for their presentation at E3. And it's not fair, but I think, you know how in games sometimes they have a certain bar that must be reached before you can get something? Like, there's a mechanic in World of Warcraft where if you get a certain debuff on you, you have to be healed to full before the debuff goes away. And here's what I think. I think if EA can ever pull off an A+ conference, EA will get an A+ from me. But until then, they will 100% always be getting an eternal F-. And it's not fair, but that's the reality of how I feel about EA as a company. So, maybe in the near future, they will be able to pull that off. They have 364 days to put together a conference that's worth pulling off. But until then, EA, unfortunately, does not get a passing grade. And probably never will, unfortunately. Would you come down? So, we go from EA to Ubisoft, or Ubisoft. You know, I was never really sold on which pronunciation is accurate. I like saying Ubisoft. Some go Ubi. You know, you can leave in the comments or yell at me on stream, whichever you feel is actually correct. And it's funny because actually through the stream I made a friend with a community manager over at Ubisoft. So I feel like he might be in here at some point yelling at me, being like, "Why aren't you pronouncing it right? It's pronounced the other way." Ah, whatever. Sorry, Cooperson. I love you. Let's see. I was thoroughly happy with the performance that Ubisoft had. I'm just going to go for broke and pronounce it either the super right way or the super wrong way for the entire review here. I was thoroughly happy with Ubisoft's performance. I was kind of half expecting them to come in and have Aisha Tyler do really uncomfortable hashtaggy bits again, and them do really bad skits. But they didn't, though. What ended up happening was very glorious. Aisha Tyler came back with a vengeance and showed off more of her passion for gaming. She kind of made fun of herself a little bit with self-deprecating humor about how she essentially is Lana Kane from Archer, which by the way, if Aisha Tyler came out one day and said she was working for some secret spy agency known as ISIS, I'd believe her. I'm 100% up for believing that Aisha Tyler is actually Lana Kane in real life. I'm sold on that concept, and you can't tell me otherwise. So don't try. Be mad about it. So, that was amazing. And the first thing that we got to take a look at, right off the onset, was Far Cry 4. There was a lot of talk, especially on like, Tumblr and a couple other websites, that this game was featuring a villain who probably was very not okay. But we're talking handsome Jack quality villain here, right off the onset. And yes, I'm making that claim. I loved this villain. He comes out, he stabs his own men in the jaw, he hands you the knife he did it with, and then takes a damn selfie with you. And then he goes on a maniacal diatribe about how you guys are gonna have fun killing a whole bunch of crap together. Okay, I'm in. Sold! And later on in the evening at Sony, and this is a little cheating, they tout co-op play as well, which is either going to be amazing or really, really bad. So that makes me really happy. they started doing some really, really ballsy skits. They had the Just Dance or Dance Central 2015. I never remember with dance games. They had that come out, and not only did they tout that this game was for all of these systems, but then they decided to say, oh, it's also for your phone. And I'm not really for mobile gaming, but I think that the way they went about introducing this game was amazing. Also, I'm dead again. Hooray! They said, okay, you can play this game if you've got a smartphone. So then they trotted out maybe 30 dancers. They filled up the entire stage full of dancers. They put some in the balconies on the right. They put some in the balconies on the left. And they said, we're going to do... I think it was Applause by Lady Gaga was the song that they chose. And they trotted them all out, and they went through the entire song. And for those of you who don't like dancing games, I can understand why you might have not have liked this break. But even though I'm not a particular fan of dancing games either, despite, you know, liking DDR and In the Groove, I really enjoyed this segment. And it's kind of because they started with Happy by Pharrell. And it's really hard to hate on something when they start with Happy. That song just brightens up your day, no matter how sad your day is. And so they kind of put me in a really good mood to segue into the actual skit. And the skit wound up being really, really good. And they took a risk, and it really paid off. And they introduced, you know, a couple other games, a couple other concepts for us. And Valiant Hearts in particular kind of caught my eye. It reminded me a little bit of Seymour Asses from Futurama. You know, a really sad dog who seems very loyal. A really sad situation, which is World War I. I saw somebody on Twitter said more like World War fun, am I right? I don't actually remember the last time we got a title showcase that was a World War I style game. I guess nobody wants to talk about World War I anymore. Maybe it's because World War II was, sadly, due to the complex political issues of World War II, far more interesting. Plus, World War II actually was a world war. World War I was kind of like Europe and friends versus Germany and some other friends. So. And then they go, they trot out Eves, and they go, we have one more thing. And I forget the game that a lot of people were really kind of hoping for. I don't remember what it was. I personally was kind of hoping for a Rayman. A lot of people were hoping for another game. I think it was Beyond Good and Evil 2, now that I think about it for a minute. But that's not what we got. What we wound up getting was arguably that much better. Rainbow 6 came back with a vengeance. They was like, oh, Rainbow Six time. Why the hell not? And I went, oh! And I watched the entire thing. And I was just like, I need this game. I need this game. I still want to do this. They had guys rappelling on the sides of buildings. They were talking about tactics and strategy. And yes, it was very much a recorded. There was nothing live about the interpersonal chats going on in the game. And they didn't drop enough F-bombs for it to feel that way. Although, to Ubisoft's credit, they immediately started the entire conference with F-bombs. They were holding nothing back. And that's good. I want to see... I'm glad that Ubisoft took risks. But Rainbow Six looked amazing from what we got. And I will very happily play that stream, both on YouTube and on stream. Because I loves me some good tactical combat shooting. Despite the fact that I play Borderlands so much, so you probably wouldn't know. Oh man, look at that. Wow. That's a silly looking shield. Oh, you wouldn't know it. You wouldn't know it, but I do love me some tactical based shooter action. I ain't talking about Call of Duty. There we go. Blockade came out. What a surprise. I think that shield is only good on Krieg. But I forget exactly why. Well, what are you gonna do? Ubisoft did a very good job of keeping it about games. I was a little sad that there was no new Rayman. I was a little happy that there wasn't a new Raving Rabbids to rub it in our face that there wasn't a new Rayman, but there was the side quest game. Side quest, the game, essentially. And as a result of Ubisoft's risky but live performance, Ubisoft, in my book, got a very solid and well-deserved A. Now, before we go into the final press conference for the day, I wanted to talk real quick about an email that I received from Twitch. And those of you who are in the chat tonight, talking to me, leaving information, discussing what's been going on today, some of you may know about it, some of you may not. I see a lot of people in the chat right now who don't have a turbo badge, who are probably going to immediately get one afterwards. For those of you who have access to a credit card, a debit card, a PayPal, any sort of payment method, and you don't have a turbo badge next to your name, I am friggin' disappointed in you right now, and I'm going to tell you why. The Humble Bundle, for I guess the entire duration of E3, is going to... What charity was it now? Hold on. Let me pull up my email real quick. This is me being unprofessional as crap, but I'm going to tell you right now, you should have the Twitch E3 Humble Bundle. As it is going towards... Let's see. It's going towards the EASF, which means nothing to me right now because I'm not entirely sure what the EASF is. Oh no. Let's go back. Unprofessionalism! Yay! Who didn't see that coming from me? Let's read it off. The EASF is a foundation dedicated to... it's the Entertainment Software Association Foundation. Well, not a particular fan of the ESA, but that's okay. It's dedicated to providing positive programs and opportunities that make a difference in the lives of America's youth. The foundation seeks to harness the collective power of interactive entertainment industries to create a positive social impact on our communities, and we support geographically diverse projects and programs that benefit American boys and girls of all races, religions, creeds, blah, blah, blah. To date, the foundation has raised more than $20 million for a wide variety of causes. They are teaming up with Twitch to provide the following benefits. Check this out. In the bundle, you will receive the following, and I'm going to rattle these off real quick. You receive Mortal Kombat Arcade Collector, or not Collections or Distant, but the Mortal Kombat Arcade Collection, with a K, because it's Mortal Kombat, so that's what they would do. Sid Meier's Civilization 3 Complete, a 7-day beta key to get into EverQuest Landmark, which I recommend you all take up. Do that. Overkill, providing exclusive items for Payday 2, but not Payday 2. Not Payday 2. Items for it. A 30-day trial to EVE Online and their DLC. Smite's Almighty Zeus Bundle. Company of Heroes 2 DLC Pack. Total War Rome 2 Nomadic Tribes DLC. Warframe DLC. Magicka Wizard Wars DLC. Anomaly 2. MX vs. ATV Reflex from Nordic Games, and from Twitch itself, one free in quotes, because obviously you have to pay for it, 1 free month of Twitch Turbo, which is in itself a $9 value. So for those of you who are watching on Twitch right now, you literally have no excuse not to have a purple battery next to your name for the next month. Even I did it, and here's the proof. There. Those of you who are in the chat right now can see what I'm talking about. For those of you who can't, I'm going to move it over here real quick. There it is. Look at that badge. See that glorious purple badge there? You literally have no excuse. Go donate. Go get Twitch Turbo. Make it happen right now. Be a man. For those of you who don't know what benefits there are for Twitch Turbo, essentially, you don't have to deal with advertisements, but you don't have to feel guilty about not dealing with advertisements, because I still get paid for monetizing my content, like you are actually there watching my advertisement. You also get access to special emotes. You can change the color of your in-game your chat name, so that you can show up as a very special customized color. You can use various sliders to go back and forth to make that look very nice. And I feel like there's something that I'm missing, but those are really the main important parts to hit on. So you don't have to deal with the issues that are that normal Twitch users would have to deal with. It's just something nice to happen, to have happen to you, and have on top of other Twitch viewing experiences. Just go out, get it, have it. Unless you can't get it for an age reason or a really hard financial ship reason, there's really no reason for you not to have this at this point. And for those of you who are asking how much it is, the Humble Bundle is however much you are willing to pay for it. You could honestly get it for free if you're suffering financial hardships, or you could pay as much as you want or as little as you want. I put down $10, which is more than it costs for Twitch Turbo, but I got definitely more than $10 worth. And it's offset, honestly, by those people who really want to drop serious guap because they believe in whatever charity or whatever studios are providing the content. So if you really believe Twitch deserves extra, I think you can pay extra towards Twitch, or maybe it's towards, you know, whatever they decide it to be for. Let's go visit Saturn real quick and see if he drops something. So, that's a nice little side benefit that people don't really realize, and that some of the people in the chat are pointing out there's at least $1 minimum to be eligible for the stream benefits. So yes, at least put down $1. Just one. You can do it. I believe in you. Just $1. You can make that happen. Okay. So there was one more press conference. And last year's winner of E3, the one that we declared the savior of gaming last year, or at least, I say we, like it was some universal decision, but at least I declared it, and I think the vast majority of the internet was in for that too, was Sony, at 9:00 p.m. And I had a lot of high hopes for Sony to be able to top last year's E3, but it would have been next to impossible to do so. Because essentially what Sony did was they did a reactionary. They kind of watched what Microsoft did, held their breath, and then went ahead and dropped the mic, like right in front of their face. Now, did Sony do it this year? Here's what did happen. Sony's presser opened up with Destiny, and they pushed Destiny very hard. I think they spent, in total, about 10 to 12 minutes on Destiny. And 10 to 12 minutes in a 2-hour press conference is still a very, very good chunk of time. So that makes me very happy. And I was starting to get a little not so hyped for Destiny because of everything that's been coming out with the pre-sequel. But I'm in! I'm in! Forever and ever I'm in! I'm in for Destiny forever, based on everything that I saw at the Sony press conference. I'm in forever. They have their bundle announced now. I will probably be getting that, but I may regret doing so, because there's no, like, special design to it, and there's no special added real benefits to it. It's just a white Sony PS4, and I kind of like the color, or the negative black as opposed to the negative white. So maybe I'll be in for it just to say that I have it, or maybe I won't. I haven't really put a lot of thought into it yet. Because if I'm not, then I'm definitely going to be in the Destiny beta, holy crap. But if I am, then you never know. You know, speaking of betas, this actually gives me a chance to back up a little bit. One of the things that they talked about a little bit more at the Sony presser was Battlefield Hardline at EA's conference, and of course they did a gameplay demo, or a gameplay trailer, I should rather say, at Sony's presser. I don't know how I particularly feel about the game yet, because the premise of it seems that they had, like, They had a bunch of bad guys steal maybe $20,000, $40,000 in loot from a bank, and then they had the cops do millions in property damage, if not billions in property damage, taking down gigantic buildings to get these bad guys. What? I mean, I understand the premise for the game, but it honestly does not feel any sort of commonsensical. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, what am I watching? What is this game that they are trying to create? But we got to see some gameplay at EA's presser, and then we got to see a gameplay trailer that was mad decently put together at Sony's presser. Would I play this game? Maybe. But it feels like Counter-Strike the Battlefield game. So who knows? Anyway, back to Sony's presser in a big way. I think directly following the Battlefield trailer, the lights came up and immediately went, BAM! Hey guys, this is Little Big Planet! And everybody went, oh! I was really, really excited when I saw Little Big Planet come back, because they haven't had a Little Big Planet for this next gen that we are currently at. And what they turned around and said was, hey, now let's talk about some new features. So finally, after 2 iterations of the game, and I want to say there was a third, like a mini one for like PSP or PS Vita, but I can't exactly say. I mean, oh! And we're getting an official Little Big Planet 3. And then they said, Sackboy's gonna have some friends. And they brought out this little dude who ran around on all fours, who could wall jump, which made me really happy. And I think his name was like Odd Sack or something like that. And he was really cool. And then they had Toggle come out, and he's a really big dude who can change his size accordingly, so he can do a couple extra features on his own. And then they had Swoops come out, which is a bird sack. And Swoops' special power is that he can carry the other 3 around. So essentially, we had Blails, or Tails, if you will, from Sonic the Hedgehog, in Little Big Planet. And you know what? I'm totally okay with it. I'm totally okay with that. Like, 112%. I love flight mechanics in any game. So the fact that we're gonna have Tails in Little Big Planet... And about this point, Israel, like, why don't I have a PS4 yet? What is going on? But Sony wasn't done. Sony wasn't close to done. Sony said, we see your press conference, Microsoft, but we still have more for you guys. On top of doing Destiny, on top of doing Order 1886, on top of doing Little Big Planet, there had been talk of this thing called Project Beast. And Kamiya comes out, and a bunch of people who are Kamiya fanboys and girls, including Zuli, who I know was having heart palpitation at Platinum Games, reveal. They have it come out, and they start touting, you know, this really dark-looking game. And BAM! Project Beast revealed to be Bloodborne. Oh! And it looked really good. You know, we didn't really get to see a lot of gameplay. It seemed like more of a trailer just to tease us. And then they mentioned that Miyazaki is going to be helping direct everything. Oh, I did and the internet collectively lost its mind again. Because why the hell not? Okay. So, Project Beast has now become Bloodborne and has succeeded to deliver on everybody's expectations. And Sony was still maybe about 45 minutes in. They were doing this fan letter thing. And I didn't really realize the fan letter thing until they really got into this next one. And they had this little thing, a letter from Sally T. And they get to the bottom of the list, and it's obviously not a real fan letter. None of them probably were. This one in particular. And we're kind of listening to what they're talking about. We're kind of like, oh, what is this? What is that? And we're like, whatever. And then the presenter goes, hey, wait a second. This is a very clearly a weird letter for them to have. This doesn't seem like a little girl at all. Let me look at that letter. And then they have a Tim Schafer name drop. They look at a thumbprint. They go to the thumb. They zoom in on it. And they zoom out a little bit. And bam, there's Tim Schafer. What could it possibly be? Oh, it's okay. It's just only Grim Fandango. Oh! And I was in a Skype call with a couple of friends. And one of them literally told me to shut up because they had no idea what was going on because their stream was behind and they got sick of... Because I couldn't put into words the hypeness that I felt. There were no words. There was only these guttural utterances of joy and happy times and just the expression of how happy I am that they're finally bringing Grim Fandango to the next generation of gaming. What? What? Like, I'm still speechless. Like, I still can't put into words how I feel that they're finally bringing Grim Fandango back. Oh. 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 And they touted that Grim Fandango would be a PS4 and PS Vita exclusive. Why don't I have a PS4? Why not? Why not? Now, after all this, the conference started taking a turn. And you know what? I was starting to get a little frustrated as it took this turn. Not up until this point. But, okay. Basically what Sony did was they started touting statistics. And this is something that Sony gets a lot of crap for. Because they do this every year. They're like, Sony has been delivering this many experiences to this many players, this many times, doing this many things. And you know what? E3 is a conference. It is a business conference first. It's not just for us. We happen to be lucky enough that we get to appreciate all these conferences, that we get to be, we get to bear witness to them. Because they honestly don't have to do this. It's not designed just for us. You know, it's designed for developers and publishers and industry investors. And that's what they're supposed to be investing in. Do you know what I mean? So, we get to be privileged enough to see this. And that's great. So, I had no problems when Sony started trailing off into statistics for a little while. But then they started also trailing off into TVs, and there were a lot of audio problems that were coming through. And I started getting really worried that their press conference, because we were hitting about an hour and a half in. And an hour and a half is about, I think, where Microsoft's runtime was. So I was like, oh my god, are they only going to end with one more, like, are they going to end with one game? What game could they possibly end with that's going to be that strong? What is Sony going to do to run this back? Because they're really on the verge of losing an A+. Because up until this point, if you didn't think Sony deserved an A+ performance for that conference, then you do not have an appreciation for gaming. And you really should stop being so damn cynical. Because Sony's conference was practically flawless at that point. Despite some of the audio issues, which were more hilarious, like Hulk Smash, as they had already moved on into the Battlefield Hardline viewing experience. And okay. So I was like, well, what could they do to possibly run this back? And then they go Mortal Kombat X. Okay, I'm in. I'm not... I'm going to preface this with, I'm not a Mortal Kombat fan, You know, I don't really go for the over-the-top gore, but I can still appreciate a good series and a beloved series of games. So for those of you out there who really love Mortal Kombat, congratulations, your game looks amazing. Your game looks like it's going to be everything you've ever wanted in a Mortal Kombat game, and you're going to get new characters, and the X-ray effects, and even the non-X-ray effects, like getting holes blasted in Sub-Zero's chest. Looked like they were going to be phenomenal. So congratulations to you guys. You guys look like you are going to get a game that you deserve. So good job, guys. And then we moved on to... Batman. I didn't see this coming. I thought it might have been like a day 2, day 3 kind of announcement thing. They moved on to Batman. And when I saw the sleeve of like Batman getting geared up. Done. Sony had its, and I know it's not exclusive, and I get kind of mad because a lot of times these conferences don't have exclusives, but good, like Sony ran it back because, remember, they had to secure all of these things. Like, these were these WoW titles that I was talking about that Microsoft lacked, that Sony managed to put in. Even if it wasn't an exclusive in this case, but they already had me at Grim Fandango, so whatever. But they had Arkham Knight come out. Oh! And they didn't mess around. They had Batman putting on his suit, which looked amazing. They had him jump off of what probably was like the tallest building in Gotham City, which was amazing. They had him glide around for a little bit, and they had him hit the ground. And as soon as he hit the ground, seamless transition right into the Batmobile. Right into the Batmobile. And I went, oh! And I was one of those people who was a little skeptical, because, and not like 100%, because I knew that they were going to do a really good job with it. But the transition from gliding to Batmobile was seamless, and then they did a really good job, and they had been talking about this in publications over the past couple months, of their vision for what they want driving the Batmobile to be. And they did not disappoint. The Batmobile can plow through things. The Batmobile is armed to the teeth. The Batmobile does not stop for anything. And the Batmobile has all the maneuverability that you want it to have in that game. And yes, it is a little implausible for a car, or a tank essentially, of that size to be able to maneuver like that. But why do you care? It's just Batman. It's just everything should be... It's Batman. This is Batman. This is what Batman does. And that's okay. Let's do it again. Again. Sold. And then they had Batman, you know, in the Tumblr, which it wasn't really the Tumblr, but it definitely drew a lot of parallels and experiences to the Tumblr. And it was armed to the teeth like it. But it looked amazing. And I'm really, really happy that they drew out Arkham City. I want to back up for a minute, because there's something that I just remembered, and it was kind of brought to my attention, too, a little bit. There was a lot of free-to-play options. I wasn't 100% on them, but I'm torn. I'm glad-ish, glad-us, ha ha ha, that free-to-play options are coming to Sony. The PlayStation Now network is going to be really exciting, including for me. I'm gonna get... Okay, let me preface this. I'm gonna get a PS4. There's no reason for me not to. But I also happen to, just out of sheer dumb luck, have a Sony TV. And you know what makes me a little sad? Sony's not actually producing TVs, so this confuses me a little bit why they're actually going ahead and doing this. But one of the things that they promoted was like, you can get a Sony TV and download our app. Ooh. Yeah. And play PlayStation 1, 2, and I think 3 games using a DualShock 3 on your Sony-based TV. It's right there. And I'm not 100% set on what exactly, like, the details of that are. I'm hoping that they release more information, because it didn't seem like they were talking about what the details were 100%. But I'm hoping that they reveal that, you know, it's free up to a point. You know, maybe if I have to pay PS Plus a little bit, that's okay by me. They really didn't talk too much about PS Plus either. And another thing that was kind of exciting was game sharing. You can play games like, I forget what demo it was. It wasn't Assassin's Creed, which, by the way, I didn't talk about very much. So let me just get a little hype for Assassin's Creed right here, right now, because hopefully this is a game that you can share with other people. Assassin's Creed 4 is A, set in the French Revolution, and B, can be played cooperatively with up to 4 people. Now, I've never really been a big Assassin's Creed person. I've never really played one for more than a couple minutes, but the game felt a little lonely. I appreciate a lot of the parkouring going on, but it never really felt like a game that I could get into, maybe because I wanted to play it so badly with other people. They gave me what I wanted. They said, here you go, you can now play this game with other people. Bing! Alright, I'm in. I think I'm in for Assassin's Creed Unity. Well, it's not 4, it's now like 5. My bad. So now, yeah, its official title is Assassin's Creed Unity. And I kind of get why they're going saying that, because it's a bit of a double. You know why I probably said Assassin's Creed 4? Because the actual Assassin's Creed 4 is kind of like a game that most people who are Assassin's Creed enthusiasts just block out of their mind. Because Assassin's Creed 4 is not a game that stood up very well. A lot of people were more happy with Assassin's Creed 2. Some dug Assassin's Creed 3 as well, and, you know, the original Assassin's Creed, for all of its flaws, was a series starter. So, you know, you give worship to that, or you give respect to that. So, this game looks like it will make up for Assassin's Creed 4 and some of the interim games that we got as a result. Which, speaking of interim games, if I can get back on track, I understand now why we got Arkham Origins. Because Arkham Origins was supposed to be the stopgap. Rocksteady told Warner Brothers, they said, we're working on this amazing game, but it's not going to be ready for years. What do you want to do about this? And they said, well, what we can do is we can license out the franchise to another studio, have them make a game as a stopgap, and give you guys more time. And that's why we wound up getting Arkham Origins, which, to its credit, was not a terrible game, but it was not, like, 100% an Arkham-feeling game. Somebody mentioned in the chat, what do I feel about PlanetSide 2 coming to PS4 for free? Well, I mean, PlanetSide is a free-to-play game, and they certainly did list a lot of free-to-play games coming to PS4. And I'm glad, because I actually enjoyed PlanetSide. I was a little sad because I didn't have enough people to play PlanetSide with. I felt like I would have enjoyed that game a lot more if I had more people who were like big PlanetSide people. So hopefully PlanetSide being on the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 4 doing so well right now, and we're talking so well right now, will help enhance the reputation of PlanetSide, because I feel like it's a really good game. But I don't know with that yet. So we've covered so much. So much. It wasn't necessarily a down point, but it was a middling point. Like, I gave it an equal sign on my report card. They started talking about TVs. But I kind of gave it a slight pass, because unlike Microsoft, which was like pushing TVs, pushing compatibility with TVs, pushing this and that, and how it's going to enhance your viewing experience, and all these things that Xbox Live was going to talk about with TVs, I felt like Sony kind of did it in a way where it wasn't 112% intrusive. And they spent like an uncomfortable amount of time talking about powers. But again, I felt like it was okay. Because Sony kind of made up for it by doing what essentially was a sandwich. Because it almost was kind of like a mullet of, but it wasn't really a mullet either, because it was party up front, business in the middle, and then party again in the back. So it was like a party sandwich. And that's kind of good, because that's kind of really what I wanted out of that conference. I think they might have spent just a little too much time on the business end. But again, it's not 100% for us. It's for people in the industry. We just happen to be privileged enough that we get to watch. As always, they touted a one more thing. And then they came out with a game that I had not heard of until this point, but a couple people I know on Twitter started losing their minds, including Acitra. Her in particular, she loved what we were saying. A game called No Man's Sky. And this game, for all intents and purposes, everything I heard about it, this game is nothing short of some sort of miraculous crazy game. The game visually looked gorgeous. And I'm taking aside the easy cheap thing that they did, where they had orange grass on like blue plants and things like that, and then they had like Mountain Dew green water effects. As a very slight aside, for those of you who are into marketing or don't know anything about marketing, orange on blue is a very cheap marketing trick that people do in order to garner attention, because orange and blue, when used properly against each other, are very visually striking and will almost always catch your attention. But that cheap trick, if you will, aside, they immediately moved into purple space combat, green capital ships, very solid gameplay. A lot of shooting elements seemed to be in there, but it didn't seem like you had to necessarily shoot at anything at all. And there seemed to be a lot of exploration. We're going by what we saw, a little trailer, but it looked like No Man's Sky was going to be very promising. And I believe, let's see, did they end with No Man's Sky? I believe they ended with No Man's Sky, but I'm going to back up because there was one other thing that they announced that I didn't, oh, no. There were two more announcements. Okay, I've got my bearings again. One of the two announcements was PlayStation is going to have GTA 4. I'm sorry, GTA 5. See, I screwed that up. I knew I was going to screw that up somehow. Because it's PlayStation 4, GTA 5, numbers all over the place. But PlayStation 4 is going to be host to Grand Theft Auto 5. And the internet collectively once again lost their minds because they were waiting for Grand Theft Auto to come to next generation. Deservedly so. Grand Theft Auto is a very beloved franchise. I'm very happy that it's going to be coming to next generation. We're going to talk about one little other thing at the end, because I'm glad PS4 got the reveal, but we all know where else it came from. But for those of you who don't know, we'll talk about that in the wrap-up towards the end. But Sony still wasn't done. They went one last thing, as all the companies do. And they dropped the bombshell for those who are big fans of Sony and said, hey, how about A Thief's End, Uncharted 4? And everybody who loves Nathan Drake collectively went nuts. So, Naughty Dog, and everybody knew, like, the crowd actually had a really big reception as soon as the Naughty Dog logo came up, because you hadn't seen anything up until this point about Uncharted. So a lot of people got a little disgruntled. They were like, oh man, no Uncharted this year, we're all gonna be sad. Like, I guess we'll have to wait until next year. Oh! Chuck Testa. They turned around and dropped it on us. Good. Good, good, good. And they went ahead and dropped Uncharted to cap off what otherwise was a near flawless experience for E3 for Sony. A little disappointed at some of the audio issues. I know it wasn't intended, but I like how they inadvertently faked out everybody, because during the Batman trailer, they had it start getting kind of like staticky, which a lot of people mistook for more audio and visual issues. But if you know Batman, you know that it usually is an indication of somebody trying to take over a feed. And lo and behold, that's when they drop what the Scarecrow looks like in Batman Arkham Knight. And oh man, does he look like he's going to be a really good villain. And it's always tough to fill Mark Hamill in the Joker's shoes. Between the Arkham Knight and Scarecrow, you know, maybe we'll miss the Joker forever, but will this game have it? Very possibly. But between everything that went on, Sony, once again, may be listed as the savior of gaming. I'll let you guys know tomorrow's wrap-up. Sony, for all their hard work, gets an A+ for their conference. They almost lost it because of some of the audio issues, because they started floundering a little bit too much in not games, but they brought it home with games towards the end of the panel. So, as it stands, Sony is way ahead. Not way ahead, but is ahead in terms of the Savior of Gaming award, even though PS3 will probably be Eternal Master Race Savior of Gaming by the end of it. So just to recap, today's grades, going in order from when their conference was. Microsoft, with a very solid B, which is a very huge improvement from last year, so congratulations to Microsoft for not scrubbing it up this year, and getting what gaming should be all about, which is, of course, games. Hey, it's a Transformer. Nice. EA, a couple nice things. Battlefront had a release date. They didn't really release much in terms of gameplay. Mirror's Edge 2, hopefully will, you know, expand upon a lot of issues and will provide a very unique and new experience with Faith. Too much sports. They wind up getting the eternal F-. They just couldn't escape it. I'm so sorry, EA, but there's only so much you can do. Ubisoft, or Ubisoft, whichever you want to call it, had a really strong showing. I was really impressed. There was no floundering around at all. It was a very solid core game. There was a lot to get hype about in Far Cry. Aisha was hilarious. Their skits were very good and very well put together. No Rayman, which kind of made me sad, but they made up for it with Valiant Hearts and with Rainbow Six and with Assassin's Creed. You know, they ran it back in a very big way. And even the fact that they sold me on the Just Dance skit, you know, is a testament to how well that entire conference, or that entire presser, rather, was put together. So Ubisoft gets a very well-deserved A. Finally, Sony brings it home with all of the things that they had to provide for. Actually, you know, there's one other thing, hold on, that really impressed me about Ubisoft real quick. And I was talking to my friend, and he points out, I can't believe they went live demo on this. I guess this is just not something that they usually do. And I'm kind of glad that they did it. Good on Ubisoft, and I think PlayStation had one live demo that they did as well. I think it was the live demo for Assassin's Creed, where they had everybody run together, and there was no fallback. It was just straight up, yes, do this. Yeah. You know, there was no net. There was no script. It was just go with the flow. And good for them. I want to see more human events. I know we're never going to probably have, like, Ridge Racer again, and we're probably never going to have My Body is Reggie again, although who knows with Nintendo tomorrow, maybe we will have an event like that. But hopefully Reggie has moved on from that, because we get it. He acknowledged the meme, that means it's over, it's out, you know, it's dead. When they become, it's like rickrolling, which I do on stream every now and again, and I'm aware of it, and that's okay. But once you realize, or once it, like, hits critical mass, and whoever it's about is self-aware, it loses a little value. But, again, good on Ubisoft. Good on Sony for having live demos. Those were very amazing concepts, and I really want to see more of them. That was huge. So, Sony, for all of that, for all the things that they released, and I'm gonna mention Grim Fandango again, because Grim Fandango, Grim Fandango, Grim Fandango, Grim Fandango, Grim Fandango. Sony, in all its efforts, the culmination of this conference brought together very well, gets an A+. Addendum, slightly disappointed they didn't have Smedley come out and talk about H1Z1. I know that it's probably not even close to being ready, but I was really hoping that Sony Online Entertainment would have a little bit more of a presence, with EverQuest Next and EverQuest Landmark being on the horizon, and H1Z1, which I really, really wanted. Epilogue. There's one more thing to talk about. GTA 5 was announced, right? We all thought it was going to be PS4. Enterprising people immediately took to the internet to find out what was up, and it is confirmed GTA 5 will be coming to the PS4. But GTA 5 will also be coming to the Master Race. PC is getting their beloved Rockstar port once again. And I'm very excited for this, because the modding community is going to take GTA 5 and run with it, and it's going to be amazing. Anybody remember the Hulk mod for GTA 4? I love that, by the way. I burped. So, I'm sure they're going to do some astounding things with that as well. Hopefully another Hulk mod. Maybe they'll make a Spider-Man mod with that. Although, Spider-Man's more of a Manhattan kind of thing. Are there any superheroes based out in LA? None that I can remember. But GTA 5 will be making it to the Master Race PC. So, I'm hoping that it comes with a couple extra features, and I'm hoping they really put up the mod community for this, because that'll be what the big sell is, and that'll be why I would keep coming back to GTA 5. And hopefully they refine the online experience, because GTA 5 online experience was kind of what really held me back from wanting to get it. But if they make it a refined online experience, and the port doesn't suck, and Rockstar makes a very solid port, because their GTA 4 and GTA 3, San Andreas and Vice City ports to PC kind of left me wanting, and there were a lot of issues that I had with them. Anyway, segueing a little bit too much. GTA 5 for PC is something to get hyped for. Iron Man is Cali-based. True, but Iron Man's... You want to hear a joke? Iron Man's Rogues Gallery. That was Sub-Zero Quasar who pointed that out in chat. He said Iron Man is Cali-based. True, but again, Iron Man's Rogues Gallery is comical. But that's a discussion for another day about how Iron Man actually works best when he's going against other people's rogues, not his own. Anyway. So there you have it. There's my E3 wrap-up for Day 0, as they were touting it. It's Day 1. Stop with that crap. What are you going to do? There's going to be a lot more tomorrow. Konami is going to have their presser at 6 in the morning. I will be up for it, and I will be grading it, and I will be live tweeting it, and then I'll be miserable, because then I'll have to take a nap, so that I can be up again for Nintendo's. Nintendo will be at noon, I believe, Eastern Standard Time. And from there, we'll go on to all the press releases that are going to happen tomorrow. I love E3. It is my very favorite time of year. I'm so glad that we could all share this together. I am so excited for E3, and I hope that you guys are too. It was an amazing first day, and you know what? The fact that I didn't have to give out anything below a B is nothing short of a miracle for gaming. It could have been so much worse. It could have been so much worse. But Microsoft pulled it together in a good way. Sony proved that they could live up to... I don't think they surpassed last year. They had a bit of a mic drop moment, but not one that was, like, fully a mic drop moment. Ubisoft didn't go too ham on the cheesy, off-the-wall skits, but they did a really good job of showcasing Aisha and putting her front and center and not having it be too invasive with hashtags and other ridiculous crap. And EA... You know, I guess it got an eternal F-, so I did have to give something below a B. If I didn't have to give it an F-, I probably would give it a B-. So that is below a B, but... Honestly, it's EA. EA still deserves an eternal F-, whatever. So there you have it. There's your wrap-up. I'm so happy that I got to do that. You know, I probably should have done it sooner. I apologize. I hope that you enjoyed hanging out with me this evening. For those of you who are actually watching it live, for those of you who are not, you always have the option of, you know, going on YouTube and watching it. Wait, why am I saying this? Why am I saying this like they could be watching it now and then go on YouTube later on? God, I'm so bad at doing self-promotion. I should have somebody do, like, sit next to me at all times and do self-promotion for me. That's what I should do. So if you are watching this not live, like, comment, and subscribe. Leave comments below of anything that you think that I missed that I should cover. E3 is going to be a very long, storied experience. I look forward to bringing it to all of you guys and sharing it with all of you guys. I'm a little sad I couldn't be there this year. Cross my fingers, I really hope to be there next year. But Nintendo and Konami are up. We have a lot of press releases to look forward to, and a lot more in the next coming days. Happy E3, everybody! From all of us here at the Mitsu Show, which is basically me and occasionally Zuli, and sometimes I'm him as well as the moderator in the chat. Have a good night. I will see you all next time. It's Mitsu's time to shine! Next year, maybe. Have a good night, everybody.